Hey guys, happy Saturday morning. This is Tracy Pelfrey. Let's get to it. Not too long ago, I came across a blog of a former minister from NTCC. It's in static mode right now, meaning no one's added to it for quite some time. Maybe 10 years, maybe just less than 10 years. I don't know how long, doesn't matter. On there, this person had some resources. There were 3 different versions of the handbook. I believe it was the 70s, 1980, and 2006, and 2010. It's also on Wikipedia. If you read the entry for New Testament Christian Churches of America, back in the day when FactNet was jumping, there were lots of edits going on between those who were out and those who were in, because you can make changes to entries on Wikipedia, of course, but it does have to fall under a certain standard, and it can be contested. I didn't look it all over, but I did find a 2010 version of the handbook that's located on a website where you kind of have to pay to download it and all. So I went with the 2006 version since we got out in January of 2006. I knew that the stuff that I'm going to read to you right now was in my handbook when I was in. And I'm sure going way back to at least 1980. And so let me read a portion for you. I didn't go overboard at all with marking this up with various colors. What the point was of that? Anyway, it's colorful to look at. New Testament Christian seminary students are expected to adhere to the highest standards and exhibit on all occasions a true Christian example. In order to avoid any misunderstanding, certain standards held by the seminary are herein set forth. The patronizing of motion picture theaters, bowling alleys, gambling casinos, pinball and video arcades, pool halls, skating rinks, bars and dancing establishments, or organized professional sporting events is not allowed. Playing cards, television sets, classical pop, country rock, or rap music, worldly dancing on or off campus, or listening to radio preachers on campus, lying, stealing, cursing, or obscene language, homosexuality, mixed bathing, tobacco in any form, alcoholic beverages, obscene books or magazines, and any other such immorality as set forth in the scripture is forbidden. Instead of asking, what harm is there in this, ask, what is there about this that is conducive to clean thinking and higher spiritual living? Or ask, may I do this to the glory of God? Our goal is to live as close to Christ and as like Him as we can. We expect that students will continue to maintain these high standards even when away from seminary. And I'd like to insert here, after I've already recorded after the fact, that this was not just for the students. It was for ministers as well, because whatever you learned in school, that was supposed to carry over. So I don't want anybody thinking that's listening to this, well, it was just for the students. No, it was not. Well, as they say, lots to unpack here, but I don't want to go through this whole thing right now. What did make me chuckle is some of the archaic language that's used. It's indicative of the person who fashioned these paragraphs. And that would be, of course, the founder, R.W. Davis. But let's focus on one thing right now, and that is bowling. And as you can see from the pictures here, I came across Keckle's bowling at the Schofield Barracks Bowling Alley in Hawaii back in 2022. I believe it was the beginning of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. I find this fascinating on so many levels. But aside from just the bowling, there's Keckle wearing a Hawaiian shirt and denim pants. I say that because let's go to the next thing here real quick. And that is, let me enlarge it so I can read it with my old eyes. In the handbook also it says dress uniform for men, and then there's a list of things. And then there's casual uniform for men. Now remember, this is for the students. That use of the word uniform, though, is quite apropos for how a cult operates and how this group in particular likes to all look the same. And let me insert here as well that this stipulation in or rule that's in the handbook also applied to ministers who graduated. They may think they're more modern in how they dress and all, but they don't realize how much they look alike. But right here under the casual uniform for men, it says slacks, long, loose fitting, denim pants and shorts are not permitted, which another word is jeans. It was something that was taught against, it was preached against by Davis and Olson for sure when I was in. Davis had a lot to say about things like that and about jeans. I'm trying to search my memory to try to recall if the men on the building crew were allowed to wear them. I don't recall seeing any of those men wearing jeans. That wasn't a thing. It just wasn't a thing. And definitely not out in public like this. The whole head guy of this organization, I mean, the one who claims to be a man of God, sporting a Hawaiian shirt and jeans out in public. So here's the thing. Here are some of the questions I have. When did this all change? It had to be after 2006. Was it before Davis died or after? Are these stipulations in the current handbook? So when did that change? When did either Davis or Keckle go to the person who's churning out these handbooks in a little room somewhere with a printer? When was that person told to stop the press and that there were going to be some changes made to the handbook? When was that? Was there an explanation given? Was there something said at a conference after 2006? Was it done like it is usually done? They just change it and don't address it at all. The people, the followers go, oh, yay! Now we can take our sons to a baseball game and we don't have to worry about having our minister's license taken away, because that's what would happen back in the day. Has anyone stepped up to the plate and made themselves accountable either for Davis or Keckle for himself or the whole board to say there's been changes and give the reason why? Because you're just leaving everybody wondering, why did it change? Was it based on God's desire to begin with, or just the quirky man-made doctrines of Davis? There were ministers who, and I don't know if anyone actually had them taken away, maybe before I was in the organization, but while we were there, we knew people who were friends of ours who took their little son to a Mariners baseball game, and the next thing you know, there's mayhem, there's controversy, there's humiliation for sure, as Davis makes people stand up in his class and makes everybody look at them and tells them what they did wrong. Because the only way you're going to change is if your sins are put out there publicly for everyone to know about, so you don't dare do it again. You're embarrassed, you're humiliated before the man of God, everybody else, God, the angels, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. Everybody knows what you did. You took your son, and now we're threatening to take your minister's license away. Jump ahead to 2024, And chances are pretty good they're in your favor if you click on the Facebook page of one of the ministers in NTCC, that you'll find that they've taken their family to a baseball game. They've taken, you have all these servicemen's homes have outings with the GIs. You know where they go? Bowling, axe throwing. That's a new one. Doesn't seem to fit the Christian standard. And what was the question? The question was, instead of asking, what harm is there in this, in bowling, in baseball games, in axe throwing, in escape rooms, miniature golf, frisbee, volleyball, television sets, ask instead, what is there about this that is conducive to clean thinking and higher spiritual living? Or ask, may I do this to the glory of God? Our goal is to live as close to Christ and as like Him as we can. So, who's going to step up right now? Who's going to come out in public and dare either? Did anybody ask Keckle or Davis at the time, if it happened before he passed away? Hey, sir, I'm hearing a hullabaloo going around that the conference that now it's okay to do these things. Is that right? Because I don't want to do it and be found guilty of displeasing God and the man of God and the board. I don't want to bring humiliation to my family. And so, is this true? Can we take those who come to the servicemen's home? Can we plan outings with them to these places, sir? Oh, sir, please tell us. I don't see anything that anyone has written anywhere about how this has changed and when. But I have to leave that way open because there was no live streaming before, I think, 2019 or 2020. And so all there is are anecdotal evidence. Will someone step up for the organization and come here and leave a comment and say, oh yeah, that was addressed? Or if it was never ever addressed, why not? Why not? Why not? Why is there no one accountable for this? Because you were sending people to hell. And you were telling ministers in front of other people, humiliating them, saying they were wrong for doing these things. Now, TVs and all this stuff that were sins, high sins. Not in the Bible, but NTCC, it was their doctrine. It was sin. Maybe it's time for Keckle to come out and instead of demanding apologies of everyone who's left through all of time, everybody else is wrong. Now that they're able to live stream and reach the world, he should step up on behalf of the organization and speak to everyone who has left and who he damned to hell and say, yeah, we changed things. So for all of the ways that you were called before the board, that things were said about you, that you were humiliated, I wonder why no one wants to come back into this extremist group. It has nothing to do with God or the Bible or anything like that. It has to do with being a cult and not being accountable, not owning up to the sins of the past of this organization and the current sins while you're at it. How about he or Olson? Throw it on him, make him the scapegoat. Why not? He's been enabling this whole organization since it began with Davis. And you know who else is enabling all of this, if it's never come out, is every single person who was in, people I was in the organization with. Let's talk about people who have been there a long time, the Tiemans, the Joneses, the Devonshires, the Halls, the Polks, Madrano, Cranes, Walls, Halls. I said Halls already. Woods. Come on, man. So the Falcons, Lucianos, Masons, you all know. Rossi. You were in when I was in. Many of us went to school together. Pettit's, West Virginia. What's the deal, man? You just say, yay, we get to do that now. The shackles are off. We can do this. Is that how it happened? It just came into being? Does anyone dare to question these men? Do you dare question your pastor? It's something you should be able to do, but no one can in a cult. You'll be wrong for even daring to question. Someone needs to step up and say, these things are okay now. If you're in the hey, let's talk about all the people that are up there at the school. The Infaustos, the Ripkas, the Lunas, Krause, Connor, Winters. All these people have never gone out, never left Graham, not one time. Never have had to. They're just like the Keckles. Just like the Keckles. These are people that they were involved in all that Shakeology stuff that I shared before, all that multi-level marketing, which is what this organization is. It's nothing more than that. And people who have never left Graham and never gone out to scratch out of work like many of you who are out there, they can't relate. They've been in this insular environment for so long. Their thinking is skewed. They're not worried about asking questions about why things change. You have to step back and think about these things. There's big implications. This isn't just a matter of, oh, once we couldn't bowl and now we can. And this is just, I just extracted bowling from this because of the pictures of the Keckles. There's bigger implications than that. And there's all these other things too. If you have a handbook, read it. Go online, read it. Go on Wikipedia, click on the resources, read it. Find out what you're involved in. Find out what you've been involved in for so long and you haven't dared question. Why? Do you allow the people in your church to question you? Do you? What will they say? If someone from one of your churches hears a video and says, is this true? That up at the Bible school it was like this? Now, again, I don't know what the new handbook says, the shiny brand new handbook, 2024 version or 2023. And what if they ask you, pastor out there in the work representing NTCC, and they say, is this true that all these things weren't allowed before? That these things in the handbook you had to get permission for, that there's a uniform to wear? What will you say? Will you say, oh no, that stuff has changed now, it's okay? Oh, why? Why was it that way before? Why were men always on the right and women always on the left? Has that changed? Has that mingled? Are they all mingled now? I know that happened up in Graham very slowly once you brought the public in. But when you go to a fellowship meeting or conference, why is it split up? Why? Ask your pastor. And if anyone's afraid to ask a man who's supposed to be a pastor, that should be cause for concern to step back. And when you have a group like this who won't be accountable for the changes they make or the things they do, you have to stop and consider, what in the world am I involved in? I hope you'll do that. I hope somebody who's in, if they're so proud to defend their group, come defend it. Come speak up for it. Come on, gazangs. You know these things were not allowed. It's right there in the book. So what changed? And when did it change? Where's the line? Who made the decision? Was it the board? Was it one person? Was it Davis? You just wave it off and say, yeah, go ahead, do it. Keckle just do it after Davis died? What happened? Where is the dividing line? Or is it still in the handbook today? I can't imagine it is. That would be ridiculous. Because look at all of you just go on the servicemen's homes. Gandy, let's talk about Gandy. Come on, Gandy, what's up? The Haggers in Oklahoma. Stacy and I were in the Philippines together. You know this wasn't allowed. All of you with kids who grew up in the organization when I was in there, we couldn't take our kids to any of these things. We couldn't opt out of Saturday morning Jehovah's Witness knocking on doors like the Keckles did so they could go to their sons' sporting events. Why was that okay? Who will answer that? These are cultish behaviors. To not only have it as something you couldn't do, but then to just allow it. All of a sudden it is. It just is. And we're just talking about bowling really right now. I mentioned some of these other things, but I don't know. Who will step up? Will Keckle? Will Kinson? Kinson, he knows. Ankenbowers, Johnson, George Jordan, Cantrell, they all know. T.P. Jordan, Espinoza's in Texas, they all know. King, who leads services, been around a long time. It's just okay. It's just okay. Anybody question it in their mind and their heart? What's happening? Why are there changes? Were you told? Was there a directive put out? Anyway, you get the idea. And if anyone has an updated handbook that they'd like to share with me, you can send it over through Facebook, through Messenger, however you want to do it. And let's see what that says. Thanks, guys. More to come.